it's Anna again. Thanks so much for coming back and joining me. It's raining outside today and I thought I would take this chance to do a little bit of spinning on my Louet S75. It's a wonderful old machine that I got used. It's actually not that old. It was made somewhere between 1992 and 2010. It's got the double treadle instead of the single, and so that's how we know what the dates would be on this particular wheel. At any rate, it's a great little wheel. I absolutely love it, and I really enjoy spinning on it. I'm not the greatest spinner. I've only been doing this for about 3 years, but it's so much fun. It's so relaxing. It's wonderfully meditative, and I'm so thankful for this wheel. But something is bothering me a little bit today, and it's not just my being a little bit out of practice because I haven't spun all summer. There is actually a problem with my flyer that I am finally deciding to fix. Let me stop spinning for a second and show you. Let's take a closer look. We're going to take this apart for a little bit. Let me lift up that tension band and take the drive band off. There we go. And let's just take the bobbin right off of here and pull that even right through. This is some of the very first wool that I ever carded. We used to have sheep. This was off of Charlotte. We don't keep sheep anymore, but I'm still working my way through 4 full fleeces, and I am not the most proficient spinner, and so I've still got a little bit left. What I want to show you is if you take a look at this flyer, you can see it's supposed to have a row of hooks on both sides, and when my little guy was just learning to walk, he reached up and grabbed the arm of this flyer and it snapped right off. I do have the other piece of it, and even though I've been spinning with it all this time, he's 5 years old now, by the way, it is just now actually really bothering me, and I'm going to show you why. Because when you put a bobbin on here, I had it this way, doing a little bit of slower spinning, so I was using the larger end. You can see that the reason you have hooks on a flyer is to help keep the wool piling up in different places, traveling back and forth across the bobbin and filling it evenly. And that's one reason that I've started spinning Charlotte's white wool over top of this darker brown Shetland wool that I had on here. So you can really easily see what's going on when you move the yarn that you're spinning along the hooks. That's where the yarn builds up on the bobbin. Now I do have a whole row of hooks on one side that works perfectly fine, but if you can see on this bobbin, there's kind of an empty spot on the end here. The hooks on the opposing side go in between the hooks on this side, including one that's closer to the end, and so you get a more nicely filled bobbin by moving back and forth between the hooks on both sides. And that's something that I haven't been making use of because I haven't had the other side of hooks on my flyer, and this is $95 to replace. It's very hard to find them used, and so knew it would be $95. And I am going to try with wood glue and a clamp to see if I can repair this flyer, and I thought you might like to do it with me. So the first thing I'm doing is covering my workspace with some old newspaper. I have a heavy-duty clamp, and I have both parts of my flyer. I also have regular wood glue. A wood glue is going to work better for something like this than like a PVC-based glue. That's my understanding anyway. I am not an expert, but this is what I'm going to use. All right, so what I'm doing here is, there we go. We're gonna wipe this all off afterwards, so I'm not worrying too much about getting way too much wood glue in here. What I am worrying about is getting it into all of the layers. And again, they don't make these flyers exactly the same way now. You can tell that this is pulled apart in quite a few different layers, and it may be a bit of a two-part gluing process. Alrighty, here we go. So just fitting this back together very gingerly, trying to get it back together in the same way that it pulled apart. And I can see how that is, but it's a little bit like putting together a puzzle because it was not in any way a clean break, and there are so many layers to it. All right, there we go. You can feel it. There we go. There we go. It's found its spot. And what I'm doing now is just getting that glue everywhere. And I honestly, there we go. I'm going to grab a wet cloth and wipe off some of the excess glue that got on the wood, and then I'm going to show you about clamping it. All right, you know, my camera stopped taking video for me as I was putting these pieces back together and clamping it. Sorry about that. You can tell what I've done is got glue in as many layers. This is multiple layers that this flyer is made of. Got glue between all those layers where they were pulled apart in the break. And now I've taken the clamp. You can see that I snugged it up using the thumb lever here as close as I could, and then finished the tightening gently with this little tightener knob. And so it's nice and tight, and you can see along the side here there are more layers to this, and even over here those layers have started to pull apart because of the break. If repairing this break over here with the wood glue proves to be successful, and I really hope it does, the next thing that I'll do is carefully work some glue down in between these layers over here, clamp that, and see if I can get these layers all good and secure again. But one thing at a time. All right, I have just removed the clamp. It's been a little bit more than 24 hours since I glued and clamped it, and you can see it does not look perfect, but it is pretty sturdy. And so I am going to go ahead, and you can see that there are some loose layers here on this part of it. And so since that first fix worked so well, I am going to sneak some wood glue in here and clamp this side, and then we're going to give it a try on the spinning wheel and see how we do. Now I wanted to show you what I'm using to squirrel that glue down in between these tiny layers. And this is one of those little plastic toothpick brush things that you can find, and it's made, of course, for getting into tiny spaces, and it has been invaluable in this process of sneaking the glue right down into these tiny layers. All right, we are back. Repair part 2. We have now glued the second part on this also, and what I did, no matter how I did this, I could not seem to get it wiped off adequately so that no glue seeped out when I clamped it, and I was afraid of the clamp when it was released pulling away that outer layer of the wood. It just is such a thin layer of wood, so I put some newspaper as a little buffer layer around it, knowing that at least I can kind of wash it with a damp cloth and dissolve those any little paper fibers that are left on the flyer. It might not look absolutely perfect, but I have to say it seems sturdy. All right, let's get this cleaned up, and then what do you say we give it a try? Hey ho, it's me again. We are back at the spinning wheel and ready to see how she spins. That was a good pun. Not intentional, but hearty har har. All right, here we go. I am a total dork. In case you have not noticed this already, you are going to find out real quick. All right, here we go. We're getting the drive band up over that bobbin. Our flyer with 2 arms on it again. Alrighty, here we go. I'm starting off with the yarn on the side that was not broken, and I'm just going to have you spin with me for a second. You know, one reason that I wanted to take you along with me on this whole little repairing adventure is that so often when you're looking for a used spinning wheel, and a used spinning wheel is a great way to get into spinning. You do not need to spend $1,000 on a brand new spinning wheel. They can be had. I paid $125 for this one, and it came with so many bobbins. It is a fantastic machine. I love this thing. Love her. But you know, sometimes you come across a great machine, you know, for $50 or $100. That really, it's like a, you know, $900 wheel new, and it's got one little broken part or something like that. And I think, my gosh, if you can fix one little thing on a wheel and get her working again, what a win. Well, let's find out if we actually did fix this one. All right, here we go. And I think we're up and running. All right, I'm going to see if I can show you quickly here now why it's nice to have both sets of hooks back on this flyer. All right, here we go. Let's flip this camera around. All right, you can see that the hooks on these two arms of the flyer are off center from one another, and this is the arm that was missing. And you can see that this hook on the end is closer to the end of the bobbin than the last hook on the other arm, which I paddle along. And so that's why it's nice to have both arms back on the flyer, and I'll be able to more smoothly fill the bobbin, especially once I get back in practice again. Again, this is the very first wool that I ever carded. It's not great quality, but it's fun to play around with and get back into practice before I start spinning some wool for socks. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me again, and I'll see you tomorrow. Hey there, thanks so much for coming back. Oh, Nellie, watch your nose, honey. Sweetie, sweetie.